In 2025, the average U.S. import tariff rate has surged to 18.6%, the highest level since the Great Depression. This isn't just a trade policy headline. It's a number that quietly reshapes the prices you see every time you shop. The latest Consumer Price Index shows food at home prices up 2.2% compared to last year. Eggs have skyrocketed 16.4% year over year, driven by higher input costs and supply chain pressures. For millions of households, that's not just a statistic. It's a daily reality. Every dollar now stretches less, forcing families to rethink what goes into their grocery carts. And with tariffs still climbing, the ripple effects are only beginning to show. So here's the question. Which states will feel the impact first, and how close are we to creating the next wave of food deserts across America? The 2025 Tariff Snapshot. 60 seconds to understand. The 2025 tariff map is more than a list of numbers. It's a chain reaction that starts at ports and ends at your local store. Imports from China now face a tariff cap of around 30% under a 90-day trade truce extension, hitting electronics, machinery, and some processed goods. Select products from India, including certain food ingredients and industrial materials, are taxed at rates of up to 50%. The White House has also approved a 100% tariff on semiconductors, with limited exemptions for U.S.-made chips. Under the USMCA, goods from Canada and Mexico avoid these tariffs only if they meet strict rules of origin. Fail that test, and regular duties apply. These numbers aren't just policy. They filter into every stage of the supply chain. Higher tariffs mean costlier imported raw materials, packaging components, and transportation equipment. For retailers, especially in food and grocery, that means paying more before products even hit the shelves. By the time those costs reach the checkout line, they're baked into every can, box, and bag you take home. Number 10. New Mexico. Rural New Mexico spans vast distances, with many communities located far from major commercial hubs, making transportation both difficult and expensive. A significant share of staples, like rice, beans, and packaged foods, comes from Latin America, leaving these areas exposed to higher import tariffs. Under the 2025 tariff structure, these goods now cost more before they even enter the U.S. market. From the border, long-haul trucking to remote counties adds another layer of expense, quickly inflating retail prices. For households without reliable transportation, the closure or downsizing of a single major retailer can mean driving 50 miles or more for basic groceries. Southern counties, with fewer store options and lower incomes, face the highest vulnerability. As prices climb and access narrows, the threat of widespread food deserts becomes increasingly real for New Mexico's most isolated communities. Number 9. Arkansas. Arkansas may be home to Walmart's global headquarters, but that doesn't shield its rural communities from retail cutbacks. In many small towns, one large store serves as the main source for groceries, household goods, and daily essentials. When that single store closes or reduces operations, residents often have no affordable alternative nearby. New tariffs on imported packaging, processing ingredients, and certain food additives are raising costs for retailers, even when most products are sourced domestically. For independent stores operating on thin margins, these added expenses can quickly turn profitability into loss. Households without dependable transportation are hit first, facing longer drives and higher prices. In Arkansas, the irony is clear. Tariff pressures and supply chain costs can leave entire communities struggling to keep shelves stocked, even in Walmart's own backyard. Number 8. Michigan. In Michigan, many low-income neighborhoods, especially in and around Detroit, rely heavily on discount supermarkets for affordable groceries. These stores are lifelines for families living on tight budgets and depending on SNAP benefits to make ends meet. When tariffs drive up the cost of imported processed foods, staples like canned vegetables, pasta, and packaged grains see noticeable price hikes. For households already stretching every dollar, even a small increase at the register can force tough trade-offs on nutrition. Urban areas with limited grocery competition feel the squeeze faster, as there are fewer low-cost alternatives. With benefits not keeping pace with rising prices, Michigan's most vulnerable residents are under mounting pressure. In cities like Detroit, this combination of higher costs and limited options risks deepening food insecurity for thousands. Number 7. Missouri. Missouri sits at the heart of America's logistics network, moving goods from both coasts and across the Midwest. When tariff-driven delays or shipping bottlenecks occur, transportation costs spike quickly and ripple through the supply chain. These higher expenses often get passed directly to consumers, showing up as rising shelf prices in local stores. According to USDA data, 38% of rural communities in Missouri are already at risk of lacking reasonable grocery access. In many small towns, even a modest cost increase can push stores toward closure or reduced inventory. When freight slows or costs surge, shelves can empty faster than they're restocked. This makes Missouri a prime example of how even a logistics hub can face severe food access challenges under new tariff pressures. Number 6. Illinois. In Illinois, many low-income suburbs depend on big-box retailers to keep grocery prices within reach. A significant share of packaged goods here comes from Canada and Mexico, but not all qualify for USMCA tariff exemptions. When products fail to meet strict rules of origin, they face additional duties that raise wholesale costs. Budget-friendly staples like bread, cereal, and canned goods can see noticeable price jumps as a result. For families already balancing high housing and transportation expenses, even small increases in grocery bills create real financial strain. If major retailers scale back or close in these communities, the combination of fewer store options and higher prices could sharply increase food insecurity across Illinois. In this environment, access to affordable food becomes as much a challenge of supply chains as it is of household budgets. Number 5. Ohio. In Ohio's older industrial cities, like Youngstown, the impact of tariffs hits on two fronts. First, higher import costs push up prices on everyday groceries, from canned vegetables to packaged meats. Second, limited retail competition in many neighborhoods leaves shoppers with few affordable alternatives. These communities often rely heavily on SNAP benefits, which don't automatically adjust to sudden price increases. When benefits stay flat but store prices climb, families are forced to cut back or switch to less nutritious food options. For residents without reliable transportation, traveling to larger, lower-cost stores outside the city isn't always possible. This combination of rising costs and limited choices makes certain Ohio communities especially vulnerable to deepening food insecurity under the 2025 tariff environment. Number 4. Florida. Florida's large senior population lives mostly on fixed incomes, making them highly sensitive to grocery price changes. Many packaged and processed foods in the state come from Latin America and Asia, leaving them exposed to new import tariffs. Even modest cost increases can strain retirees already balancing medical expenses and daily living costs. Adding to the challenge, Florida consistently records some of the highest gasoline prices in the nation. For residents who must drive longer distances to reach affordable grocery stores, fuel costs compound the financial burden. In rural and suburban areas without strong public transit, these combined pressures make food access both more expensive and less convenient. For Florida's older communities, the dual impact of tariffs and high transportation costs can quickly turn a tight budget into a crisis. Number 3. Texas. In rural Texas, many towns rely on just one or two major retailers for their grocery needs. When those stores face higher costs, the lack of competition means price hikes reach shoppers almost immediately. Tariffs on goods from Mexico, a key supplier for the state, have driven up the cost of staples like frozen vegetables, beans, and rice. These items are central to many household meal plans, especially in communities with strong cultural and culinary ties to Mexican cuisine. For families already managing tight budgets, the added expense can force difficult trade-offs at the checkout. In areas where alternative grocery options may be dozens of miles away, residents have little choice but to absorb the higher prices. This makes rural Texas particularly vulnerable to the combined effects of tariffs, cultural food preferences, and limited retail access. Number 2. California. California's Central Valley is one of the most productive agricultural regions in the world, yet it still relies heavily on imported packaged and processed foods. Many of these products come from Mexico, Central America, and Asia, making them especially vulnerable to new tariff costs. At the same time, California consistently records the highest gasoline prices in the nation, raising transportation costs for both retailers and consumers. Even in areas surrounded by farms, the price of staples like pasta, canned goods, and cooking oils can climb sharply under these conditions. For low-income households, especially in rural agricultural towns, these increases cut into already stretched budgets. The irony is clear. A region that feeds much of the country can still face shortages or high costs for the foods its own residents rely on daily. In California, the mix of import dependence and high fuel costs creates a unique and pressing risk under the 2025 tariff environment. Number 1. Minnesota. Minnesota tops the list with a real-world example of how quickly food access can disappear. On August 29, 2025, the Walmart in Coon Rapids closed its doors, cutting roughly 176 jobs. For many residents, this store was the primary source for affordable groceries and essentials within a 10-mile radius. Its closure now forces shoppers to travel farther, spend more on transportation, and face fewer choices at higher prices. The impact is especially severe for SNAP users and households without reliable access to a car. Public transit options in the area are limited, making trips to alternative stores time-consuming and costly. This single closure shows how one corporate decision can reshape daily life for an entire community, and why Minnesota sits at the top of the risk list under the 2025 tariff environment. Food desert. Are you in the danger zone? The USDA defines a food desert as a low-income area where residents have limited access to affordable, nutritious food. In urban neighborhoods, this often means living more than half a mile from the nearest supermarket. In rural communities, the threshold can stretch to 10 or even 20 miles. Access isn't only about distance. It also considers household income and whether residents have reliable transportation. If a community has few stores, low car ownership, and limited public transit, it's far more likely to be classified as a food desert. You can check your own area's status using the USDA Food Access Research Atlas online. Just enter your zip code to see detailed maps showing food access levels and identify local risks. The near future. What will decide the outcome? One key legal battle to watch is VOS Selections v. Trump, where a federal appeals court has allowed contested tariffs to remain in effect while the case continues. On the international stage, trade negotiations with China could determine whether the 30% tariff cap under the current truce is extended or lifted. Talks with India will be equally important, as certain goods still face duties of up to 50%. From the corporate side, Walmart's upcoming Q3 earnings will offer insight into how tariffs are affecting profit margins, store strategy, and pricing. Combined, these legal, diplomatic, and corporate signals will shape whether communities under pressure see relief or face even tougher conditions ahead. Tariffs 2025 are more than trade policy. They are actively reshaping how Americans access and afford everyday essentials. From rural towns losing their only grocery store to cities paying more for basic staples, the ripple effects are real and growing. How have grocery prices changed in your state or city over the past few months? Share your experience in the comments below. And if you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next deep dive.